The latest Shrooms and Closet update have turned the farming meta upside down, so I'm going back to my roots and redoing all of my builds, starting with the one that's absolutely broken in the early game, the Weed Bungalow. In the past, everyone used this build to carry them through the early game, but thanks to the AC unit and the new storage closets, this farm is now more efficient and more profitable than ever before. But unfortunately, I've had to make some changes because it's not as simple as slapping down an AC unit and calling it a day. The new AC units increase both grow speed and drying time, so due to this increase in production, I've had to make a lot of changes to ensure all the numbers and ratios add up. You see, when I put out a build, I want to make sure that it's the most profitable and most efficient build out there, and after over a month of testing, I finally figured it all out. So here's what I've changed. First, we're using air pots instead of moisture pots. With the AC unit increasing grow speed, it's finally more efficient to use air pots for weed. We're also not using fertilizer anymore. I know, it sounds a little crazy, but hear me out here. I tested both configurations and even consulted a few other Schedule 1 gurus, and we all came to the conclusion that having no additives for weed was the most efficient way to do it. Don't worry, we are still producing heavenly quality, but since we don't have to order fertilizer anymore, we can use our delivery base spot at the Bungalow to constantly reorder seeds from Albert. This frees up Dan's hardware for our later builds. As for the soil, we're going to be loading up a huge storage closet inside the Bungalow and using the handler to restock our botanist supply shelf whenever they need more soil. The extra long life soil lasts for 3 grow cycles, so we should only have to top up the closet once every 2 weeks, which isn't a big deal. But the biggest change I made to the Weed Bungalow is something that I've never shown in any of my other build videos. We're going to be backfeeding the weed into the supply racks. Let me explain what that means. You see, traditionally, the botanist would harvest a plant and then move it on over to the drying rack. And for weed, that meant each botanist would be assigned 4 pots and 4 drying racks, which was the optimal ratio for fertilizer weed. 1 pot needed 1 drying rack. But now that we have the AC unit to speed up the growing and drying, the optimal ratio has changed so that each pot needs roughly 2 drying racks. And there's the problem. We can't set the destination of the pot to multiple drying racks, so instead, we have to invent an entirely new way for our botanists to move the weed from the plants over to the drying racks. And that's where backfeeding comes into play. Instead of setting the destination of each pot to a drying rack, we just set the destination to the botanist's supply shelf. And since these botanists have drying racks assigned to them, they'll pull the weed from their supply shelf and move it over to the drying racks. It's honestly genius. And you know what else is genius? Buying some Schedule 1 merch. The developer of the game gave me the go-ahead to make some merch, and all of the proceeds are going to support a drug rehabilitation charity, so you can look good and do good at the same time. We got pillows, we got hoodies, and we got really cool hats. Every order comes with a personalized thank you video from me, so what are you waiting for? Go to staysilly.shop and pick up some cool merch today. Anyways, let's get back to the build. Here's the layout. You'll see we have 22 drying racks and only 10 pots, but don't let that small number fool you. This build produces nearly 25 bricks of weed a day, which is a lot more than my previous build did, and it's all thanks to the AC unit. Over here, we have our 2 supply shelves for the botanists, and up here we have the soil rack for all of our extra long life soil. Like always, we're going to be doing our mixing at another location so we can really maximize our output. You can either use the storage unit mixing build, or you can wait until I release the updated mixing builds in a few weeks. They all work flawlessly, and mixing off-site ensures that we're able to pump out as much product as we possibly can. It's the most efficient way to do your empire. We keep all of our plants up front to minimize the walking time, and we use the kitchen as a centralized packaging area. Setting it up this way ensures that everything flows properly and efficiently. Moving on to the next section, here is a list of everything you're going to need to make this build. I know it looks like a lot, but some of these things are optional and you can change them up if you need to. For instance, you don't necessarily need the brick press. You can just route everything into a closet and pick up the weed yourself. And while the AC units technically make it more efficient, they're not a necessity for this build to operate. And if you don't have the closets unlocked yet, you can just use large storage racks in the meantime. I designed this build to be as efficient as humanly possible, but you can always change things around to fit your own playstyle. Now let's get into the build. The first thing we're going to do is grab all the supplies that we need to make sure our plants grow properly. So that's going to be 10 air pots, 10 suspension racks, 10 full spectrum grow lights, 2 AC units, 2 large storage closets, and a huge storage closet. Next, you're going to head inside and place 8 of your suspension racks along the back wall just like this. And then you're going to skip a square and put down the AC unit, and then go to the other side, skip another square, and place down the AC unit again. And make sure these are set to hot, not cold. And then just go ahead and place 2 more suspension racks at the end of those AC units. The next step is to grab your air pots and place 1 under each of the suspension racks. Again, because of the AC units, we can finally use air pots without it being a detriment. In the past, we used those moisture preserving pots, but now it is finally more efficient to actually use the air pots. And once you get the air pots down, you're going to go ahead and grab your full spectrum grow lights and put one of those at the top of each of the suspension racks. There really honestly is never a time that you should be using LED grow lights over the full spectrum ones unless you just don't have the full spectrum grow lights unlocked yet. Next, we're going to throw down the 2 large storage closets, which are going to serve as supply shelves for the botanists. And then we're also going to put a huge storage closet here, which we're going to fill up with soil. Now you can head back outside and grab everything we're going to need for the kitchen area. To build out the packaging area, you're going to need to grab both the huge and large storage closets, 5 lockers, the large rack, the medium rack, and the brick press. Next, head inside and place 5 lockers right here along this counter, and then put a large closet here to hold our product after it's been dried. Then go over to the wall and place your medium storage rack and your large storage rack just like that. And then we're going to go ahead back here in this corner and place the huge closet to hold all of our finished bricks. Then just slap down the brick press and you're good to move on to the next section. So the last thing we got to do is build out all of our drying racks as well as the AC units. So go ahead and grab all of those and head inside. We're going to start by placing 1 AC unit in the kitchen and surrounding it with 3 drying racks. Then head into the back room and place down the remaining drying racks in this pattern here. You may have to watch it a few times because it is a little bit complicated, and I know it looks incredibly cramped, but I promise you the workers are going to have no issues getting to all of the drying racks in here. Luckily, the workers don't actually need any tiles in between the drying racks to walk in between them, so this won't be a problem at all. Then go ahead and place down the AC units just like this and make sure all of them are set to hot. Then place your remaining 3 drying racks down the middle just like this. And after you get that done, we are finished placing things down and we can move on to the rest of the build. The next major section of this build is going to be setting destinations, adding filters, and renaming all of our closets with the fancy new feature that Tyler just added. Renaming things now will help keep the handler routes more understandable later on in the video, since we can actually see where they're moving things to. So jump inside and rename this large storage closet to supply number 1, and then rename the other large storage closet to supply number 2. These are going to be the supply shelves for our botanists. Then move over to this huge storage closet and rename it soil. This is going to hold all the soil that our handlers are going to move over to the supply shelves whenever the botanists need it. Then move over to the kitchen and rename this large storage rack to dried product, since that's what it's going to be holding, and rename the huge storage closet to finished product, since this is going to hold all of the bricks after they've been pressed. Now that we're done renaming, we can go set up all of our filters, so head back into the main area and open up the supply shelf. The top 5 rows are going to hold the seeds that we're going to be using to grow. Now, since this farm can grow any type of weed, we're going to give it all the types of seeds. OG Kush, Sour Diesel, Green Crack, and Granddaddy Purple. Just fill all the top 5 rows with it. Then go on to supply shelf number 2 and you're going to copy this on over. As a reminder, you can use the copy and paste feature with the filters by clicking the little 3 dots in the top right hand corner. It should make it go a lot faster. Once you get the top row done, go back to the first supply shelf and make the first 2 slots of the bottom row extra long life soil. Then go back to the second supply shelf and put extra long life soil in the first 2 slots there as well. Now go back to the first supply shelf again and then fill in the remaining 4 rows with all of our different types of bud. OG Kush, Sour Diesel, Green Crack, and Granddaddy Purple. The reason we're adding these as a filter is because we're going to be backfeeding the weed into the supply shelves so the botanist can take it over to the drying racks. And then all that's left is to copy those final 4 slots into the second supply shelf, and then we can move on to the next section of this build, setting up all of the destinations. So go ahead and grab your clipboard and manage these 5 air pots on the left. You'll notice that we're leaving the seed at any, that way we can grow whatever type of weed we want. And we're going to set the destination to the supply shelf on the right. Then grab your clipboard again and manage the 5 air pots on the right. We're going to leave the seed at any again, and we're going to set this destination to the supply shelf on the left. Then go into the kitchen and select these 3 drying racks, and then head into the back room and select those 19 drying racks. At the end, it should say that you're trying to manage 22 drying racks. Open up your clipboard and set the target quality to heavenly. Then set the threshold to 20, and you're going to set the destination to the large storage closet out in the kitchen. And the last step here is to set the destination of the brick press to the huge storage closet behind it. Once that's done, we're ready to move on to our next section. Now that we have all the destinations locked in, it's time to set up our valuable employees. We're going to start by assigning a locker to each of our employees. Now, this part is pretty straightforward and simple. All you do is give each employee a locker. So I'm going to fast forward through this as quick as I can, and I hope you enjoy the elevator music. Alright, I want to pause here for just a moment and explain how these botanists are going to get set up. We have 22 drying racks and 10 total plants. And since we're backfeeding, that means each botanist is going to be assigned both plants and drying racks, but the numbers are a little different. So 2 botanists are going to be assigned 2 plants and 6 drying racks, and 2 other botanists are going to be assigned 3 plants and 5 drying racks. And don't worry, it doesn't mess up the efficiency or the ratios for the farm. So go ahead and grab your first botanist, and then assign him to the supply shelf on the right. Then just turn around and assign him to the 3 air pots in the back corner. After that's done, you can go ahead and head into the back room, hop up on this drying rack, and assign him to these 5 drying racks against the wall. Once that's done, you're good to head back outside and grab your second botanist. We're going to assign him to the supply shelf on the left. Then turn around and assign him to the 3 air pots in the other corner. All that's left now is to turn around and head on to the back room, and you guessed it, assign him to the 5 drying racks on the other side of the wall. Now that we have 2 botanists done, we can move on to our third, so head on back outside and grab the third one. We're going to assign him to the supply shelf on the right, and then turn around and assign him to these 2 air pots next to the AC unit. After that, head into the kitchen and assign him those 3 drying racks that we placed in there, and then head into the back room and assign him the 3 drying racks in the middle. After that's done, you can move on to your final botanist, so go ahead and head back outside. We're going to assign him to the leftmost supply shelf, and then turn around and assign him to the 2 air pots on the other side next to the AC unit. Then just head into the back room and assign him the remaining 6 drying racks, the ones that are kind of in the center. You may have to hop up on the drying rack in the middle in order to be able to see them all. And once you get him done, we're good to move on to our handler. Now this is the part that most people get stuck on or have issues with, so make sure you pay attention. You're going to select your handler and make the first 2 routes going from the loading dock over to each of these supply shelves inside the main room. Then you're going to have 2 more routes going from the storage closet we're going to fill up with soil to each of the supply shelves. And then the final route is going to be moving product from the dried product closet over to the brick press. All you gotta do now is assign the brick press to your handler and they're completely done. Go ahead and double check that your clipboard looks exactly like this. And yes, the orders of the routes do matter. And that's it. You've just built the most efficient weed bungalow Schedule 1 has ever seen. All you gotta do now is fill up this closet with some soil, order some seeds from Albert, and shove some money in your employees' lockers. The farm should start kicking up immediately. Your botanist will run inside to start planting all the plants, then they'll harvest it and move it to the drying racks, where it'll get dried and turned into heavenly product. Then, once it's done drying, they'll move it over to this storage closet right here, and then the handler will move it over to the brick press and turn it into bricks. Now this farm does need at least 2 days to really get up and running. You have to wait for all the drying racks to get filled up before you really start seeing it pump out product. But once it gets going, it doesn't stop, and it produces enough weed to carry you all the way through the rest of the game. I appreciate you guys more than you realize. Don't forget to join the Discord at discord.gg/bigwilly, and as always, stay silly y'all.